Learning goals. Welcome to this learning session on understanding primary and secondary data. In this course, we shall address data categorization introduction, primary data, collection methods, primary data, pros and cons, secondary data, information sources, secondary data, pros and cons. There will be a quiz at the end to test your knowledge.
Introduction to data categorization. Data is broadly categorized into two main types: primary and secondary data. This classification is fundamental in research, influencing how information is gathered, analyzed, and ultimately used to draw conclusions. Understanding these distinctions helps researchers choose the most appropriate data collection strategy for their specific objectives. Primary data refers to information that you collect yourself directly from the source. This direct collection ensures the data is tailored precisely to your research questions and objectives. For instance, a scientist conducting a new experiment generates primary data unique to their study. Secondary data, conversely, is information that has already been collected by someone else and is available from published sources. This can include a vast array of materials such as academic journals, government reports, company financial statements, or online databases. A common example is using census data, which is collected by a government agency for a separate research project. Primary data, direct collection methods. Primary data is characterized by its direct collection from the original source, meaning the researcher gathers the information firsthand. This approach is often employed when existing data does not adequately address the specific research questions or when a unique perspective is required. For example, a company might conduct a focus group to understand consumer reactions to a new product concept. Common methods for collecting primary data include conducting experiments, carrying out surveys, and distributing questionnaires. Each method is chosen based on the nature of the research question and the type of information needed. For instance, medical trials are a classic example of experiments designed to collect primary data on drug efficacy. Designing effective primary data collection tools, such as surveys or questionnaires, is crucial for obtaining relevant and unbiased information. Poorly designed questions can lead to inaccurate or misleading results, undermining the entire research effort. A well-structured survey, for example, might use a mix of open-ended and closed-ended questions to gather both qualitative insights and quantifiable responses. Primary data offers researchers direct control over the collection process. This ensures data relevance and allows for thorough assessment of accuracy and reliability. One significant advantage of primary data is that the collection method is known and controlled by the researcher. This transparency allows for a clear understanding of how the data was gathered, including the specific conditions, instruments, and procedures used. Consequently, the accuracy and reliability of the data can be thoroughly assessed, which is crucial for validating research findings. Furthermore, primary data can be specifically designed to find answers to unique or very specific questions that existing data sources might not address. Researchers can tailor their surveys, experiments, or observations to precisely match their research objectives. For instance, a marketing team launching a niche product might conduct a targeted survey to gauge interest within a very specific demographic, ensuring the collected data is highly relevant. This direct control over the data collection process also allows for greater flexibility in adapting to emerging insights during the research. If initial findings suggest a new line of inquiry, the primary data collection method can be adjusted to explore these areas further. This iterative process can lead to more comprehensive and nuanced research outcomes. Disadvantages of primary data collection. Despite its advantages, collecting primary data can be a time-consuming and expensive endeavor. The process involves designing research instruments, recruiting participants, conducting fieldwork, and then processing the raw data. For example, a nationwide survey can take months to plan and execute, incurring significant costs for personnel, travel, and data analysis software. Another disadvantage is the potential for the data collection method to be improperly designed, leading to misleading results. If a questionnaire contains biased questions or a survey uses a non-representative sample size, the collected data may not accurately reflect the target population. A classic example is the 1936 Literary Digest poll, which incorrectly predicted the US presidential election due to a biased sample, highlighting the importance of rigorous design. Furthermore, the quality of primary data heavily relies on the skills and integrity of the data collectors. Errors can be introduced through interviewer bias, respondent misinterpretation, or data entry mistakes. These human factors can compromise the accuracy of the data, requiring extensive training and quality control measures to mitigate risks. Secondary data, existing information sources. Secondary data refers to information that has already been collected, processed, and published by someone else. This data is readily available from a wide array of sources, making it a convenient and often cost-effective option for researchers. Unlike primary data, the researcher does not directly engage in the initial data gathering process. Common sources of secondary data include newspapers, books, academic journals, government publications, and the Internet. Government organisations, such as the UK Office for National Statistics, are particularly valuable sources, providing extensive demographic, economic, and social data. For example, a researcher studying population trends might use historical census data published by a national statistics office. The Internet has revolutionized access to secondary data, offering vast repositories of information from various organizations, research institutions, and public databases. However, the sheer volume and diverse origins of online data necessitate careful evaluation of its credibility and relevance. Researchers must critically assess the source to ensure the data is reliable and appropriate for their study. Secondary data, advantages and disadvantages. A primary advantage of secondary data is its ease and low cost of acquisition. Unlike primary data, which requires significant investment in time and resources for collection, secondary data is often readily available, sometimes even free. This makes it an attractive option for preliminary research or when budget and time constraints are tight. For example, accessing publicly available market research reports can save a startup thousands of dollars compared to commissioning a new study. However, secondary data comes with several disadvantages. The data source may not always be reliable, or the data itself might contain errors, especially if it's from less reputable online sources. Furthermore, the data might not be suitable to find answers to specific questions, as it was originally collected for a different purpose. For instance, a study on general consumer spending habits might not provide the granular detail needed for a company analyzing purchasing patterns for a very specific product category. Another critical concern is that secondary data can be out of date, particularly in fast-evolving fields like technology or market trends. Using outdated information can lead to inaccurate conclusions and poor decision-making. Additionally, the original collection method might be unknown, meaning details about the sample size, survey methodology, or questionnaire design are unavailable, which can make it difficult to assess the data's validity and potential biases.
Summary. Well done. You have completed the course, Understanding Primary and Secondary Data. You should now be familiar with Data Categorization Introduction, Primary Data Collection Methods, Primary Data Pros and Cons, Secondary Data Information Sources, Secondary Data Pros and Cons. Should you need to revisit any of the topics in this course, please use the menu at the bottom of the screen.